How did I go from this grade 2 hamstring tear, limping off the mat, limping out of the gym, back to explosive plyometrics and tricking within 6 weeks? In this video, we're going to be going over how I use graded exposure in order to rebuild my hamstring and get back my full confidence to return to tricking. And we're going to, of course, include special tips for movement artists. Let's go. Hey guys, Neil Toussaint with TrickStrong.com, where we help you perform without limitations. About 6 weeks ago, I had a right hamstring tear. It was a grade 2 biceps femoris strain, and that muscle is just on the outside of your hamstring. And if you guys have torn your hamstring before, you know how hard it is to trust that leg again after that's happened. And compound that with the fact that I'm a movement artist, tricking athlete myself, so not only do I want to run again, I want to kick, jump, pivot, lift, use my body aggressively, basically, and be able to flip off one leg, land on one leg with confidence so that I can do the next trick. We need a plan to get from day 0, which is the day it happened, all the way back to where I'm at right now, right? So we broke it up into a 3-phase plan, and that's going to be from the acute phase to the subacute phase and back to returning to tricking. An important part of this protocol is using graded exposure, meaning we're going to progressively load the hamstring from day 0 all the way back up to our goal. And this is a really important part because a lot of people don't use this graded exposure approach. They kind of just do what they want to do, which is oftentimes ego driven, and it's like, well, I'm ready for this, so I go do this now. No, I mean, it's a lot faster if you just do what you're ready for that day, and then your body is going to heal, adapt, and overcome the challenges you've faced, and you're going to be able to do more and more as you go on. And the body's amazing at adapting, so if you let it versus beating it into the ground, then it will give you what you want, right? And so that's the point of this video, in order to give you guys a good case study of how to progress from day 0 all the way back up to where you want to be. And if you want a full blueprint, definitely check out the TrickStrong RX app. We just put out a hamstring rehab program, and it breaks down from phase 1 to phase 3 exactly what to do: sets, reps, progressions, etc. And you can go at your pace, scales to your level, etc. And we got a 7-day free trial, so really you can check it out for free, see what the program is, and do what you will. But in this video, we're going to break down from day 0 back to tricking what I did to overcome this issue. All right, let's get to it. So here I am at the session, and how we're going to do this video is I'm just going to take you through the true footage of the injury and the recovery. So we're at Sky Zone, has a little spring floor. Actually, this is foam block. And I'm just drilling my double Bs and cannot land it today. Landed it plenty of times, but it is a harder trick for me. You know, we just have those tricks that are easier and more difficult for us naturally. What happened on this one, and you can see me trying to get off that leg immediately, and I go to step, and unfortunately I cannot stand. Kind of hard to watch, but watch this landing angle, and you see my right hamstring there is very stretched. So I believe that that's that, plus the rotation, plus the 2 hours of sessioning and drilling in the airbag over there in the gym, combined with the slightly increased frequency of training leading up to this, in the last few weeks leading up to this, I think just caused this issue, you know. So it's important to not only go into the rehab, but go into the why as to what factors played a role, and just to really try to learn from your mistakes or your issues. And sometimes too, things just happen, you know. It's a pretty risky sport. I've been personally doing this for about 20 years, so things happen and it's part of it. So your goal is to make yourself as resilient as possible at all times, so that when things happen, they're not as severe. And I believe that's what happened here, because I definitely felt a pop at this point, but it wasn't to the point where, I mean, I was limping. It wasn't good. All I'm trying to say is that I think it could have been worse, given me watching other people's recovery, etc., and me being able to do certain things a bit earlier than even I would expect as a physical therapist. But because of the surrounding strength that I had in the rest of the leg, etc., I think that helped speed up my recovery a lot faster. So from here, try to get quickly off of it. And I try to step and still feel a lot of pain there. So we're gonna go into our rehab right now and see how we got from this back to tricking. So right after this strain happened, I actually immediately started doing isometrics. And what isometrics do is they're a good way to ramp force into the muscle in a very gradual way. So you can choose the amount of force that you need without actually causing pain or injury, but you're gonna get blood flow, you're gonna get neurological activation there as well. So you're gonna help the healing process start as soon as you start that. And I did that in the car on the way home. I wasn't driving. And so, yeah, immediately started doing isometrics. So I'm gonna show you some of those. And the way I'm gonna do this video is I'm gonna show you categories of exercises, and we're gonna go through the progressions that I used. So the first exercise type I use were isometrics, which just means where I'm pushing against an immovable object and I'm not moving my hamstring, so there's no movement involved. So that's very good early on to load the tissue. So here I am at home and I'm just pushing with my heel right into that block, and I'm using stick assistance just so I can stay in a good position. And I can tell that I'm feeling it. And I'm like, wow, okay, I can put very little pressure, but putting this pressure is very important. And this is day one, so this is the next day, right after the issue. So same day, here I am doing a hamstring bridge isometric, and you could see my face, like it was not comfortable, but it wasn't pain. And that's the line that you have to be able to ride. And if you're unsure, just err on the side of caution. But for me, I'm pretty familiar with my body and what needs to happen at this phase. So I'm pushing it right on that line, but not above it. And I'm holding for about 10 seconds, and I'm really just, it's pretty difficult. I can barely lift my butt here. Next, this isn't quite an isometric, but it's training very similar tissue. So I'm trying to train my connective tissue. That means that the hamstring, we just want to work on the muscle oftentimes, but that's not the only thing you have to worry about. You have to worry about tendon, you have to worry about connective tissue within the muscle, and that's how you're going to get stronger. So what is strength? Strength, people just think it's muscle. No, it's not just muscle. It's neural drive. It's how much force you can funnel into that muscle. It is the connective tissue strength and health. It's the joint health surrounding those tissues. So it's a lot more than just muscular strength. So I'm strengthening all the types of tissue that are involved in the hamstring, and not only the hamstring, but you're going to see that we're also training around the area as well. So I'm doing these sliders in a very controlled way. So I'm using the sticks to really help me be able to push through. And this is yet another day. So this is a few days now into the recovery, and I'm actually able to push pretty decently, given that I was just limping, and I might still be limping depending on how much I walk at this point. But pretty good. And then in this progression, you can actually see that I'm angling it. So I'm really trying to target that biceps femoris by angling my leg here. So I'm really feeling on that outer hamstring there. Just some ideas for you guys at home. So next I'm going to show you my hamstring curl progression. And as you can see, if you look at my butt, you see these weird cuffs. This is the blood flow restriction training. So what blood flow restriction training allows you to do is it restricts your blood flow, and it tricks your body into thinking it's working harder than it is. And it sends a bunch of nutrients, some blood flow, metabolites, etc., to actually boost protein synthesis, boost tissue regeneration, etc. So basically you can work at a very low load. So I'm doing body weight hamstring curls at this point, literally body weight, but it is actually very difficult. And it's not only because my hamstring's torn. I mean, yes, of course, that's part of it. But the other part of it is this blood flow restriction training makes everything so much harder. You can do like body weight bicep curls and fatigue at like 30 reps, for example. So that's what I'm using here. If you don't have access to it, the idea is that we're doing high volume, low intensity work to get blood flow into the tissues that we need to heal. So we're doing some pump work, getting a lot of blood flow in there, and that's really helping speed along the process here. Next, in my hamstring curl progression, we are doing a seated hamstring curl. I'm using bands. Band, cable column, doesn't really matter. What does matter is that it is difficult, and you can see from my face that it is plenty hard, but it's not painful. It definitely gets a little challenging, and the value of the seated hamstring curl versus the standing one is that the seated one's going to put more stretch and more load on the tissues. So as I'm progressing, I'm adding more length to the tissues and not just sticking with the same exercise. I'm progressively loading. And of course, I'm doing both legs because I don't want my other leg to just do nothing for a month. So train the whole body, but really focus on the issue in the beginning, and then you start to integrate more and more as you go. You don't want to leave holes in your recovery by neglecting other parts of your body. It's very common to do that. Now we've progressed yet again with the hamstring curls. Now I have the blood flow restriction training, but I've added ankle weights. So that's obviously going to make it a lot harder. And look at this hamstring curl. So I got the monkey feet. Basically, I just have weights attached to my legs, the equivalent of a ankle weight. It's just more weight. And I'm actually trying to mimic the positions that I'll need in tricking. So getting that leg far up and behind me and then really controlling it down with that eccentric. And as you can see, I'm experimenting with different angles. This is to target that biceps femoris tissue, so that exact area of my hamstring that was affected, I'm targeting it specifically here. So when you guys are doing your rehab, you don't want to just do things that should be okay. You want to feel the tissue that needs to be loaded. It's very important. Here I'm experimenting with my straight leg raise mobility. As you can see, I can't fully lock out my knee, and I actually have a lot of hamstring mobility in general. And you got to realize this is just one of the heads of the hamstring. So that's how I'm able to do all this at this point, because there's other muscles compensating, and it's not a grade 3. It's not completely torn, but I do feel this. But I also had a lot of prior hamstring mobility, so that's why I'm able to get to this point a lot sooner. This is me doing calf raises with the BFR. Again, very good option, especially early on. I'm not only focused on the hamstring, I'm focused on the rest of the body, even early on. And the calves are really going to help support the hamstring because they're in the back of that leg as well. So the load in the posterior chain will be dispersed through other muscles, not just the hamstring. And it's important that your glutes and calf and feet and just everything in your body really is going to be working together to help connect everything, and so that not all the load's going into one area. So here I am now using the RDL progression as one of the most valuable progressions I kept using throughout my rehab, and I still do it pretty much every other day, every third day at this point now, because I've incorporated tricking now into my routine. But as you can see here, this is where I started. I can't bend at all. I mean, this was very hard for me. You could see in my face, like, this is work, you know? I had the BFR on, but still, like, this is definitely some work for me. You can't start past that, right? This is probably day 3 or 4, I believe. And now I'm already doing it with a trap bar with BFR as well. And I'm actually getting more range of motion, as you can see. I'm moving faster, and I'm just getting a lot stronger, getting a lot more comfortable with this range of motion. Of course, still using 2 legs and still using very little weight. So this is about 100 pounds or so. And that's dispersed between the 2 legs. And, you know, I can deadlift over 400 pounds. So this is, you know, I'm at like 25% of my strength at this point. But this is where we start. And this is where you put that high volume work in, like we talked about. So we're getting that blood flow and getting that pump effect so that the blood flow is going into the tissues so that they can heal faster. And we're getting mobility as well, because we're getting to that stretch position, but we're not getting the mobility. Like, you shouldn't be overstretching at this point. You should just be moving through ranges. You shouldn't be holding and stretching into pain. Next in the RDL progression is actually a single leg RDL, and this is still in phase 1. So I'm using the wall for support, and just coming up and going into that triple extension, pretending I'm tricking, but I know I'm not. But it's getting those muscles fired and ready, and I'm just going to my limit. I'm right on that line here. I remember this day. Hard work. And then compare that to the other leg, where I'm just willy-nilly just going fast and aggressive. So believe it or not, in phase one, I even got to plyometrics a little bit, and this is very low load, very light, especially for what I'm used to, but I'm just seeing what I'm able to do. As you can see, I'm like going through different motions. This is my first test of where I'm at, really. I am not feeling anything here right now. I'm basically using my calf, so I'm not using a lot of hamstring, but I'm just experimenting and seeing the load that my body can take. Very controlled manner and with two legs. So some baby skiers. This is all I felt confident enough to do at this point, because I didn't want to mess anything up. I was just curious to see where I was at. This is like day 3 or 4 or so. So I'm able to move a little bit. And I absolutely attribute it to what I had been doing for the past few days. I took long walks. I used the sauna. I did all the rehab I already showed you guys so far. And now I'm experimenting with some kicks, but I don't go any harder than this. So it's pretty boring. It's all I can do, but it's all good because I know where I'm going. So now we're experimenting with some baby broad jumps. And that's about as far as I got with my plyometrics around phase 1, which, you know, these aren't really even plyometrics. This is just like testing and being safe, but also curious as to where I'm at so that I can incorporate it into my training if I am ready. Because if you are in a good headspace and you know your body and you know that you're not going to compromise your recovery, then I think it's a very good idea to keep trying to see where you're at and push the envelope just a little bit without any pain, of course, but just to do more, because you never know what you might be ready for. Like, I didn't think I was going to be ready for RDLs on like day 2 or 3, like with the trap bar, but here we were. And because I was able to do that and I noticed that, then I was able to progress a lot faster. So that's why on the app we have a lot of progressions, because it's not some magical day or magical number of reps or anything that's going to get you to the next progression. It is whatever happens. So you can't be making these predictions exactly day by day, or, you know, oh, I jumped to this weight, now I'm ready for whatever. So you got to test the waters every time you're training. And if you've never seen it before, this is a little bit of that dry needling. Shout out to Jess for hooking me up here. I just told her where to stab me, and there we are. So we're getting a lot of blood flow into that hamstring. As you can see, it's more on that lateral side. So this is where I was feeling it. So I put most of the needles right there to get that blood flow in. Just a nice bonus. Nothing that absolutely needs to happen, but it definitely speeds up the recovery process, and I think it helped me out a lot as well. So we're on to phase 2. You know, I was able to get a little balance in at the end of phase 1. So now with phase 2, this is going to be the RDL progression. So now that I can do RDLs with weight, now we can add some speed, right? Because that's going to help us build that connective tissue in a way that allows us to use it fast, which is what tricking is and what athletics is just fast, explosive movement, right? And kettlebell swings. And actually, I remember this day. This day was funny because I was filming some exercises for the app, but other than that, I couldn't get a workout, and I really wanted to, and all I did were these, and that was the workout. I just did 3 or 4 sets of this, and I put it on for like 1 minute, which was pretty brutal, especially with where I was at with my recovery. But I was really riding that line here. I remember like at the bottom, I would feel it like it wouldn't hurt, but it was just stressing it perfectly. And so I was just staying in that groove and using the rhythm to just stress it perfectly and not make it a little bit too much, you know? So you're always thinking of that, and you're not just getting too hype or whatever. You're trying to recover in a smart way. So actually, it was a little heavier than I remember. This is a 70-pound kettlebell, and the band is just there to help activate the glutes, help program that hip drive to really focus on that hip drive, something to push against. Good mind muscle connection there. So I really like adding the band when you can. I'll give you one more view of that so you can see how that's resisting my hip extension. This is what some of my hamstring curls look like in phase 2. And don't get the wrong idea, I'm still doing the things I showed you in the phase 1, but now I'm incorporating more difficult variations into my training here. And so this is a slider, hamstring slider variation, and I'm using BFR, so this was actually quite brutal. If you could see past my head, you see that I'm on sliders and I'm just going back and forth, and that was really tough. Some more hamstring curl variations. Now we're in the Nordic hamstring curl. And of course I can't do a Nordic right now, but I'm just doing isometrics, and that was as low as I could go. That was like maxing out. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna need some support. So you gotta listen to your body and respond to what you're feeling and what the situation is. So now I have the handheld support in case I need it, but also to go deeper into that range, right? Because I couldn't get into that range on my own, but now that I can with the sticks, now I can train that range. Now I can get stronger in a deeper range of motion. So with these isometrics, I'm actually using different angles to help train the hamstring at different ranges of motion, because if you're doing an isometric and there's no movement, then you're only really going to be training around that area strength wise. But if you do it at different increments, then you're going to be training the whole range of motion. So I was using that to help me get my whole hamstring activated. And here I'm at with a deep range of motion using a push-up, Nordic push-up variation. So I'm curling against the bar here. So I'm pulling my heels up towards the ceiling, and I'm just using my handheld support just so I could be in a deeper range of motion, more straight leg position. And lastly, I entertained some heavily assisted Nordic curls. So that band is rated to about like 70 to 100 pounds or something like that. So it's really assisting me a lot, but now I'm able to train through that full range of motion and experience the sweet pain of Nordics early on. So this is about a week and a day in, about a week in. Other drills I started incorporating in this phase, because tricking requires so much mobility and strength through that full range of motion, it was a good idea to start getting into those straight leg raise variations or straight leg variations. And now we're doing a heel drive drill, banded heel drive. So you could do banded, you could do cable column. You just have an ankle cuff and you attach it to the cable column and you just drive your heel straight down. This is actually this is the right leg. So this is the leg that we're working on for the recovery. And as you can see, I got a lot more mobility in that week. So I'm able to get to that 90-degree position with a pretty straight leg. So that's really good. And I'm actually moving at speed and I'm looking for more tension. I know this looks crazy, but red light's good for you when you go to sleep. Helps calm the nervous system down, etc. And here I am doing slider drills there. Nothing new. We did that last phase, but we're just getting a little bit deeper, and you can actually see the range of motion improvement in that range, but I'm still not quite at the left leg, which I believe is in this video as well. So that left leg can go a bit further still, but it's okay, we're getting there. And then on that same note, we're doing Jefferson curls. So I have a kettlebell in my hand. I know the quality isn't the best, but it's red. I was about to go to sleep, but I just wanted to get a little bit of work in. And now I'm doing a very slow Jefferson curl with some weight. I can't tell how much weight that is. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead. So that's about 25 pounds, it looks like. Just slowly doing that. And that really helps load the whole posterior chain. So not just the hamstring, but the low back, etc. And a really useful thing to use if you have access is the sauna, because man, it's just great. It just really helps boost. All right. And lastly, recovery wise, still doing a couple dry needling sessions here and there. I think I ended up doing about 4 or so. And then I'm using the sauna here. As you can see, the sauna is really great for helping to boost the healing properties of the body. So it boosts protein synthesis, it boosts stem cell production, and it just accelerates the healing process. So it's really good, and it feels great as well. obviously, and it helps you recover from your workouts a little bit better. And there I am, sweaty boy, finally out. It's always like a desperate exit there. Now we're moving on to phase 3. So now with phase 3, we're getting a lot more global with what we're doing. So phase 2, we're really focused on the hamstring still, but starting to incorporate some other lower body drills, of course. I'm doing squats, doing lunges, etc. But in phase 3, I really start to do pretty much everything because I'm gearing up to return back to tricking, back to sport, right? So I've separated these into upper body. So I'm working my upper body, I'm working my core, I'm working mobility, I'm working lower body, I'm working plyometrics. So I'm going to take you through those very briefly and just show you what that looks like. Just some upper body training. So I'm not going light, but I'm also not spending too much time on the upper body. So maybe like once, twice a week or so. I still want most of my resources in the body to go towards that injured tissue. And that's because I'm trying to heal as quickly as I can without rushing it, of course, but I feel pretty good in the rest of my body. I'm maintaining things, but I'm really focusing on improving the health of my hamstring. This upper body drills are very good to help you get acclimated, get your body ready to start tricking again. So I'm doing pullovers here, really helping to open up the chest. And actually, this is part of my Movement Foundations program I came out with around the time. So actually what you're watching is footage of me filming for that program. So during Christmas, I got myself the Nord bench. It's pretty hype, pretty happy about it. This bench is for Nordic curls, but it's for a whole bunch of other things. And what's really cool about it is that you can use the incline to make it easier or harder. So as you can see, now I'm able to do full Nordic curls, and so now I've lowered the bench, and now it's going to be even harder for me to do that Nordic curl. So you guys can always play with range of motion as the load, so see there, I didn't really have the confidence to come back up. It wasn't strength, because as you can see in this next set, I'm able to do it, but I just felt a little bit like, I felt a little sketchy. I don't know if I should be trying that hard. And I was just like, after a bit, I just did a slow lower, and I was like, all right, I'm actually controlling this range. So I was able to do it. These are my first unassisted Nordics. They're a few degrees off with that incline, but soon after I got my Nordics back. So that's appropriate for phase 3. We're really trying to get back into tricks, and we're really trying to push the envelope. So we're going to do some aggressive stuff. So now, again, filming for the program, but doing some work with the overhead walking lunges. Really like this drill to open up the hips and the hamstrings. Sumo deadlift, great variation to get the adductors and hamstrings involved. Lateral lunges, again, working not just the hamstring, but we're getting the quads and we're getting the glutes now. We're getting everything involved so that we can get back to tricks. And mobility as well. So look at that other leg. We're getting that adductor nice and stretched out, and we're pushing that into the ground to add more activation to the drill. So we're getting some hip thrusts in, and these were not the hard ones. This guy, man, you put a 25-pound plate, whatever plate you need, on your hip, and you just do the single legs. Whew, that burns. You really squeeze the glute with it, and you get a lot of activation there. One of the best exercises that I feel for the glutes. Starting to get more sport specific again, looking good. Now we got these kick holds in there, so we're getting ready to kick, flip, twist. Getting some isometrics in still. This is for the calf and Achilles. And you can't tell because my other leg's in the way, but my leg is bent, so I'm getting that quad as well working. Getting ready to jump. Getting all the jumping muscles ready. So that was a lot of the lower body exercises. Of course, we're going to get to some more lower body exercise with these plyometrics coming up next. I didn't have a video of it, but I was doing this drill. This is straight from the app. But I was doing the shuttle run drill. I was doing sprinting, which I also didn't get to film. But it looked pretty much like this. No pain. we were able to get back to sprinting pretty well. So in the middle of me being able to sprint again, I started sprinting about 2 to 3 weeks before returning to tricks. And sprinting is the highest load that you will experience on your hamstring. Probably maybe more than tricking, honestly, because when you're sprinting full speed, the load is insane on your hamstrings, and that's why people pull it very often while sprinting. So that's a very good return to play, but you got to be careful with that, and you got to be smart, like we've been saying. So following these progressions has been essential to get me back to that point of being able to sprint, because I remember somewhere in the middle there, I tried, and it was a trial, so I wasn't going out to do it. I was just trying in my hallway, and I felt it a bit, and I was like, okay, well, I can jog, but I can't sprint yet. So needed a few more days, maybe up to a week, really worked those faster drills, faster variations. So the banded kettlebell swings, for example, these plyometric drills. Pogos are amazing, get into those alternating pogos. And again, right now, it's not only about isolating the hamstring, it's getting us ready to trick again. So now it's been about 4 or 5 weeks at this point, so I haven't tricked in a month, except for things here and there a little bit, which we'll get into in a second. But the plyometrics are very, very important to, I mean, think about it this way, right? If you're going to be doing tricks, doing movement art type stuff, you want to be able to do the physicality of it before adding the skill element. So why am I going to be doing backflips if I can't do a max jump? Why don't I figure out if I can jump at least 50% first, then I can jump at 80%, then I can jump at 100%, then I can jump and land on one leg, for example, and then I'm like, okay, maybe I can do a backflip, you know, and I can, you know, like I have the prerequisites. That's the important part. You need prerequisites before doing certain things. So now we're doing double jump. So now we're just really learning how to stick. And this one was scary, and I left this in for you guys so I'm filming this for the app, by the way. Movement Foundations has to come out at the new year, and I just got to be ready for it, right? So, but I was pretty ready to do this, but I actually remember holding off on filming for my hamstring. And so I'm going to demonstrate the low high, which is a horizontal jump followed by a vertical jump, but that's a lot of load on your lower body. So you can see I kind of bail here. I was just like, I don't know about all that, but I mustered it up. So there we go. A little timid still, but we're getting there. So we got our upper body, we got our lower body, we got our plyos. Can't forget the core. So as you can see, I'm putting a weight on this stick. Gets these crazy ideas, you know, as a physical therapist. Gotta be innovative and get to the goal of what you want from your movement and from your client's movement. So I have this weight in my hand, and I'm gonna be doing those shapes real soon, you know, like doing gainers, doing flips, etc. You know, you get into this arch position, and you need to be able to support that with your core. So we're just adding a little bit of load to that and using the Nord bench to really lengthen at the core. And this is very difficult, honestly. It feels great though. Then we get, so I love this like a little rotisserie action on the Nord bench, because so I went from front, now I'm getting the sides. You can do banded, you can even do weighted, and yes, I did both during my rehab. I really liked both for different reasons, so experiment with those things. And don't sleep on bands. Bands are, oh man, this variation. So we rotisseried, right? We did the front body, we did the side body, now we're doing the back body, now we're doing back extensions. And of course I did normal back extensions, but now I'm doing with a med ball, so adding speed. So you can imagine how much load is going into that hamstring right now when we're going really fast. And I'm not only lifting fast, but as you can see in maybe some of these other variations, or I think I have another angle coming up where I'm more aggressive with it, so we'll come back to this one. But I'm throwing the ball down basically, and I have to catch with that, you know, so it becomes more intense. Give that a shot if you want at home. I was doing this one too, so this rotational banded drill, really trying to start to mimic the demands of tricking here. So I'm adding that twist. So we often do extension and rotation with tricking. I mean, that's the whole sport pretty much. We're constantly going like this or like this, just the whole time. So it makes sense to prepare that, right? here's that more aggressive med ball toss. Brutal exercise. You can see my face there. And some mobility, especially specific to the movement that we're doing, right? So a lot of back bending in tricking, a lot of shoulder opening, a lot of hip opening. So why not do a wall bridge? Of course, we're filming this for the app as well. So this is the Movement Foundations program, and I actually use this program in conjunction with the principles of the Hamstring Rehab program in order to get back. So check both those out. If you're looking for a full body solution, the Movement Foundations program is amazing for just plugging up any weak links throughout your whole body. We have mobility day, we got a strength day, we got a power day, covers it all. So these are hip airplanes, really trying to open that hip up. If your hip is open, it's going to be easier for your hamstring to do its thing. Some more straight leg variations incorporating core. So this one's pretty difficult. Give it a shot. But my leg's straighter now, right? So the rehab's working and we're getting back to it. And these pendulums are pretty difficult. These are great on the core as well. And with my issue, the hamstring mobility plus core activation is a really good mix. And last but not least, the hamstring isometric. So I'm not just stretching here. First, I start with a 2-minute hold. Then I do contract, relax reps into the ground. And that's going to help lengthen. It's going to help me get more mobility, but also more strength in that end range of motion. That's what we really need, because the end ranges are where we're going to be most vulnerable, right? So if your arm is outstretched all the way here and then now you have like 100 pounds going down on it, yeah, that's going to hurt. Same thing with your leg, right? So you want to strengthen those end ranges of motion because those are the critical zones that we tend to get injured at, especially with tricking. So in this final part of the video, we're going to be talking about my return to tricking, the best part. So this is my first backflip. This was on the 27th. I overdid it a lot. My glasses flew off. I almost fell into the counter just because I was uncalibrated, but we are back. I didn't feel anything there. Same with this gainer. I didn't feel anything there. I think it felt like a 1 or 2 out of 10, very minor, a little bit of just effort on that cork, but we were all good. And then here we are in the new year trying to do it, but the jacket got in the way. So we got a cork in here. And I was super happy about that, but I knew I wasn't quite ready, that I needed a couple more weeks to really get back to tricks for real. I believe this was on the 5th or the 6th or something like that. And my first session ended up being on the 23rd. So I gave it another, 2 more weeks from that day. And I'm going to show you the highlights. So we got the warm-ups. With a thorough warm-up, you really want to hit all those ranges of motions. We have a full no equipment warm-up on the TrickStrong RX app, and I actually follow that exact warm-up, and I've been following that warm-up for years. I see no need to change it. It is great. It feels like a mini conditioning session / warm-up, and I feel amazing and ready to trick. It takes me about 10 to 12 minutes. So I went through that first, and then after that, we got back into the tricks. And so we're back where it started here, and this is my first backflip at Sky Zone. That was pretty easy. Flash kick, getting there, okay. And this is where we're starting to actually test the hamstring here, right? Because, so this first kick I do like a baby version, just a pop 3. You can see the leg's not straight or anything. I'm just like babying it to see if it'll be okay. And I'm like, oh yeah, that'll definitely be fine. I didn't feel anything there. And then boom, so over to kick, able to flip, able to twist, and we're happy, And in my warm-ups, the other value of a warm-up too is like, it's another way to test things, right? Because I was doing the leg swings during the warm-up, so that's a good way to know, and kicks. So before I do them in the air, now I have to worry about the skill component, etc. Like, I'm doing them as basics on their own first, and that allows me to gauge it and to see where I'm at before I just throw myself into the full thing. Now I'm just testing the B kick out. And mind you, I actually felt hamstring strain with the setup even just a few weeks before this, so I was a little bit nervous here, and I wanted to just get the B twist out of the way to see how it would feel and see how it goes. There we go. Didn't feel anything. Now we're getting floaty, getting confident, feeling happy about it. Getting to the gainers. So that trick takes off of that leg. So that's right off my right leg, right off the hamstring. Get into that single leg hip hinge position and then exploding off of it. So that's where all those RDLs came into. The RDLs comes here where you're pivoting and thrusting through that hip hinge in order to jump. And that's a very important range of motion for us to train as trickers. And you got to train for your activity. So I felt very prepared at this point, and I've been 2 sessions now at full intensity, and I have not felt one thing. And if you're superstitious, you can knock on wood for me. That was sketchy. I wish you guys could hear this with the audio. Maybe we can edit it in, but the freaking sketchy floor is so narrow, and then I just landed my trick and thinking I'm still on the floor, and then I just trip out of it. So that was crazy, but we're good. Now we're kicking pretty aggressively with the cork shuriken, no issue still. And we're just testing the basics, but going through, and of course, we're talking about preparing to get back to tricks, but your tricks aren't gonna magically be 1000%. You got to calibrate, right? So this is about preparing your body, and I felt completely prepared. I actually felt very strong during this session, and I was surprised with everything I could do. And I attribute that to the training, of course, but I still had to recalibrate and get some skills back and get awareness back. But again, I felt very good overall. Yeah, that raise was kind of crazy. And so now we're getting into single leg, flips off of that leg, landing on that leg, jumping off that leg again, and we're still good, so I'll show you full speed. No issues there. So hamstring is the right leg, hamstring. So these are those points that we're really going to get the stress, and it was all good. And at this point I felt very confident. I didn't think I was going to do a dub the first session, to be honest, but with this timer, I felt like I knew exactly where I was and exactly where I needed to be. And I was like, all right, well, let's run it up. Let's see what happens. And I wasn't honestly too nervous because at this point, the session was going great. And we did it easily. Super happy about that. And we comboed it. So I'm thrilled. I'm just at the beginning of the session, I was just like, it'll be success if I leave here feeling good. And I did. And not only that, I got tricks back, got some dubs in, just felt really good about it. And I just had to end it with what started it all. I know it's not on floor yet, but we got the dub B back. It was a one shot. I only did one B twist into that pit and then did a double B. And I was pretty happy about that. So with this session was a lot different. I did have a lot less energy that day, but we were experimenting with more kicks, more combos, more technical transitions. So I was feeling a little bit more confident. As you can see, I'm falling, but that's part of tricking, and I was not worried about it, and it didn't hurt at all. I'm able to handle everything. Now we're back to the timers, but now I just wanted to see if I could, but I wasn't going to push the issue if it felt weird or anything like that. But at no point did it feel like anything out of the ordinary for me, except for the fact that the floor is super narrow, as you guys have seen from other angles. So I was a bit nervous about falling off the floor here, but I did make it happen. There it is, super hype. And I had to do one more for good measure. Wasn't as good, but hey, I'll take it. Second session back, low energy this day, and we're swinging dubs, so I feel good about it. I even got this cool combo, so I was happy about this one as well. G9 hook, side swipe, tornado swing, D-leg.
I even got this cool combo. I was super happy about this as well. So just doing some more technical stuff, having some fun with tricks, which is really nice after 6 weeks off. We even started doing snappers again, started training those. And as you can see, I had to calibrate because I do not know where I am in the air at this point. But we got it back. It's like riding a bike, as they say. And I had to end on a good note, again with the dub Bs, seeing where they're at, and they felt very good. Honestly, they felt very dialed in. This one in particular felt good as far as the axis. And it's the last trick of the day, last trick of the session. Stuck it.
And that's how I use graded exposure to get back to tricks, from limping off the mat all the way back to G-switch dubs, double B twists, double corks, etc. Very happy about this recovery and excited to share it with you guys because I think there's a lot of value. We went from phase 1, very light, low-level exercises, built the foundations for pain-free living. And then we got to phase 2 where we upped it a bit more. We got to some weightlifting, some low-level plyos. And then phase 3, where we really got back into shape, got into some high-level advanced strengthening exercises, some plyometric exercises, some tricking specific drills, and then we got back to tricks. So if you're a moving artist or really anyone who wants a seamless hamstring recovery, go check out the TrickStrong RX app. And we got the Hamstring Rehab program ready for you to take you from phase 1 through phase 3, complete recovery with sets, reps, and progressions. Remember, we got that 7-day free trial, so you can check it out at any time. Hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment for us. Let us know what you enjoyed most about this video. And of course, subscribe. Train hard, stay safe, and see you soon for the next one.